Shane, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you.
Well, it's nice to be here at Ourea. Is that how you say it? Ourea HQ?
Ourea, that'll do. Yeah,
right.
Slightly different pronunciation for those who speak ancient Greek.
Okay. And if we did speak ancient Greek?
I believe it's Oureash.
Oureash. Okay, well, let's not complicate.
I didn't know that when I chose the name.
Let's complicate the issues. So we're here today just to talk about Ourea Events, kind of how it came to be, and also kind of just get a bit of an insight really into the workings of the organisation and get your thoughts on some of the events that you run, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
But let's start with the origin story, I guess, if this was Hollywood. Okay. Where did it come from? Where did Ourea come from? How did it come to be?
So rewind to 2009, 2010, I was doing a period of consultancy work in the outdoors. I'd just finished a long block working with Innovate. It was a fantastic time to work with Innovate because they were kind of new into the market, brilliant products, massive energy in the business. It was the time of the launch of the Talon 212.
Right,
classic shoe. And I was behind the marketing there. Just finished that work. Had what's the right word? The comfort to have had a little bit of money in the bank and thinking about the next project. And I was thinking another consultancy role with another outdoor brand. I was doing a tiny smidge of consultancy for Berghaus about event work, and backwards again, I had done a little of ad hoc event planning and directing work for Rat Race Adventure.
Right. Okay.
So I wasn't a novice to event planning, but I didn't ever think I would have a career in it. It was just a novelty to plan a race in Ireland or an adventure race in Birmingham. It was just fun.
Yeah.
And essentially, I, without too much thought, pitched to Berghaus the idea of resurrecting Dragon's Back Race. And that came to me because I had recently read Feet in the Clouds, has this wonderful chapter about the original 1992 race.
Yeah.
And I'd pondered and gone, well, you know what? Kind of in 18 months' time, it's the 20th anniversary. Why not do another one? I really like challenges, business or personal, running, whatever, however you want to frame it, that are challenging and difficult.
Because you're an accomplished runner and climber and general outdoor kind of enthusiast yourself, right? So,
yes. And as I, at a very basic level, starting to put together what would be required, I was like, wow, this is difficult. And without too much thought, I pitched the idea to Berghaus and they said, yes, we'll sponsor it. Right. And I walked out of that meeting with like a sponsor and an idea of no plan, really. Right. Literally nothing written down.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be serious. And I didn't really need to work immediately, thanks to the Innovate work consulting. So I dedicated the next 18 months to understanding how to build and recreate Dragon's Back. And the very first thing that I did was track down Ian Wardle, the original organiser from '92, and it took a bit of time. Went to Wales, tracked him down in this pub in Abergavenny, and we had a pint and lunch together. Right. And I explained my ideas, and he shook my hand and wished me luck. Okay,
because the original race, there was a lot of military involvement, wasn't there? Yes. Essentially, it was kind of almost like a military-backed event, wasn't it? So
Ian had just come out of the parachute regiment, and he was able to use his military contacts, and he had about 100 soldiers who did all of the logistics, the driving, the catering, the building, the camps, the marshalling, the hills, everything for him. And they put it down to, a training exercise. And I knew we would never have that level of support. We didn't even ask for it from the military. I knew we'd need to solve these challenges ourselves. And actually much of the time in kind of that 2011 period was doing landowner consultations.
Right.
And if you imagine a 380 kilometre route, all the different landowners that you interact with, or stakeholders, some of them you genuinely need their consent, some of them that's a courtesy. And over many, many years, we have built up this incredible, it's a Google Maps plan of the whole race route. And there's very few little patches now that we don't know who the landowner is, and we're able to fire them an email or phone them up. Okay. But it's taken years and years to get to that point.
Right. So from that origin, the kind of Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like, I mean, I like your style, kind of, here's an idea, and then in 18 months having to kind of put together this incredible event, which has grown into, one of the world's premier mountain events, right? And it's widely regarded as one of the most kind of toughest mountain races in the world. So from that kind of origin, it's not even a humble origin, because it's quite a kind of explosive entrance onto the market. Yeah. Where does Ourea kind of shape its mission? How does the organisation see itself? What's your primary kind of purpose for being?
So it's something we've considered recently, actually, and I think mission is to create world-class events for participants to have genuinely challenging but life-affirming experiences. And the kind of Cape Wrath Ultra, Dragon's Back race and Northern Traverse, they fit into that characteristics. Something like the Great Lakeland 3-Day is not quite at the same level of challenge, but that kind of really world-class event experience. We want to operate with responsibility and integrity. We want to essentially do good as a business. That's really important to us. We have a real focus on sustainability. I just used the word integrity. As an organisation, we want to have integrity. We want to respect our participants, our event team. Those are some of the kind of mission, vision, values of the business. Yeah, right. Do good.
Do good.
Yeah,
in all things.
Yeah,
because one of the things that obviously I've run a couple of your events, and one of the things that becomes through loud and clear really is your commitment to your volunteers. Your safety briefings are very, very, very robust in terms of their delivery, particularly around how you view your volunteer team. I'm just wondering, I mean, this I guess feeds into the doing good for volunteers, but just wonder how you feel that lands with your participants, that kind of key messaging.
Well, for both participants and team, crew, they all get the same message pre-event, and that is my priorities. First priority, event team safety. Second priority, participant safety. Third priority, logistics. Everything else is a distant fourth place to all of those top three things. We've built some very robust safety management systems over the years. Much of that is actually invisible to most participants until they need them. But it allows us to go to places like Cribgoch, have Glencoe Skyline going up Curved Ridge and along the Anakeekak Ridge, and it allows us to operate in weather and conditions that would be testing for a lot of other organisations. How does that land with the participants? Honestly, I don't think many of them get a glimpse of what is going on in the background. And that's fine. That is fine. It comes back to a question about perceived value and cost of an event. But when a participant is in need of our whole package of support that is in there within an event, the system works really well, and we can look after people to a really high standard as it's needed. And that allows me, I guess the key thing is, I do not want to organise events for the lowest common denominator. If you don't have good safety management systems, you're constantly worried about Joe Bloggs at the back, who is struggling with the whole thing. They've just overestimated their ability, underestimated the race. If you're worried about that person, then you can't deliver world-class challenging events for the majority of the participants who are capable. It's hard, but they're capable. But the reality is you will always have some people like that at your event, however you best describe it. So for us to deliver those complex, challenging events with confidence, we need to know that for everybody at the event, we can wrap them in cotton wool as and when the need arises.
So what I'm hearing is that in terms of mindset, the primary responsibility for individual safety, in terms of participant safety, they have to take some responsibility for that themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas from a race organiser's point of view and a race director's point of view, your primary responsibility is the safety of your team, who volunteer their own time to support the events and make them run smoothly.
Yes, that is true to an extent. There comes a point, like with severe weather, when there is a cut-off when you have to say, actually, this for 90% of the participants, this is not tenable.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about safety on a kind of very broad level, and we do that all the time. It was painful, but we decided to end Glencoe Skyline at the halfway point last year, and we did everything possible on the day to try and run that full course, but it just became untenable.
Yeah.
And sometimes in that capacity as a race director, you have to go, you know what, this is a line and we're not going to cross it.
And I'm assuming there's a clear set of guidelines as to kind of when you get to that line, and then a mechanism kicks in that ensures that there's safe evacuation of
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a severe weather management plan. It is all written down in the comfort of the office when you don't have the pressure of a race happening, and it is very, very clear X and Y is occurring, you need to take X and Y action. And we often refer to it. On that day, we went back to the severe weather management plan, we looked at what the protocol said, and we're like, we always write these plans with a little bit of wiggle room and discretion. So, for example, it might say if the wind is above, let's say 70 miles an hour, you must take significant mitigations.
Yeah.
Mitigations might include cancellation, rerouting, blah, 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 blah. And it gives you options. So it doesn't tie your hand as a race director that X happens, you must do Y. But it gives you very clear instructions that as you get to these thresholds, you must take small mitigations or big mitigations. And the actual cancel red line is, quite high for my events.
I'm sure. Yeah,
but it is there. It is written down, and we can get to that point if the circumstances dictate.
Right. One of the things you mentioned earlier on was around kind of price point.
Yeah.
And some of your events require quite a significant investment, kind of personal investment financially. How's the cost made up? What are the composite elements that get to the arrival of participant fee?
Yeah.
And kind of what's the added value of an Ourea event as opposed to events that are probably not quite so much of an event?
So that's a very, very good question. So where do I start? So first of all, I would say headline is I passionately believe that the events are amazing value for money, and they are expensive. I'd never dispute that. I would say the greatest expense for most of our participants is the emotional time and energy invested in preparing.
Yeah.
For most people, getting to a Dragon's Back race start with a good chance of success, it's hundreds of hours of training, it's missing family, birthdays and dinners, and that's the investment. That's the real pain point for most people. Yes, they're expensive. One thing that I've always been very clear on, as a volunteer, if you come to one of our events, you then get a credit equal to the value of the race entry.
Right.
So for anybody, as long as they've got a bit of time, there is a way for them to effectively do the race for free.
Right.
So that's really important to me. The good thing about that is that we have this amazing community of really experienced runners who 1 year volunteer, next year race, next year volunteer, next year race. And the experience they bring and the ethos, culture that they hold of how we deliver our events is absolutely priceless. Going back to the price itself, so I've got 10 full-time permanent staff.
Yeah.
We are working year-round to plan, deliver and organise our portfolio of events. If you were to take your car to the garage today, or you call out a plumber...
More than likely, with my car, to be honest.
And you get your bill, and you see the cost per hour for a mechanic, a plumber. Maybe you speak to a solicitor for some legal advice, you get the cost per hour. Just take any one of those numbers you like, apply that to 10 staff working full time. Yeah. You're going to come up with a pretty significant fixed overhead for us to just be here. So that is part of the cost for us to deliver professional events. And when I went earlier, we were talking about all these things going on in the background. That's what a lot of that time and energy goes into. The events are very complicated. It's kind of a toss-up between Dragon's Back, Cape Wrath and the Northern Traverse about which is the most complicated. Skyline Scotland for 2025 might overtake all of those given what we have planned now. But there's a cost to that. There's a cost for things running smoothly on the day. We also use a lot of professional staff on the events. And these are really, really experienced people, and they make things happen smoothly and safely. So there is basically an inherent cost to that. And I think finally I would say I'm driving around in a 15-year-old van. You know, these events are, you know, they're not, nobody's getting rich here. I created events that I would like to do.
Yeah.
That's basically what I've done. And I pour passion into those events, and I am not the right person to maximize profit. You know, I'm creating events because I want them to be awesome. I want participants to have an amazing time, and that is what drives my decision making.
So you spoke kind of, when we spoke about Ourea's kind of main mission, we spoke about kind of being world class and leading world leading events, and doing that with integrity. You described kind of how the cost is made up. So what does world leading look like in your events? So, you know, if I was to arrive, because I haven't done one of your events for a little while, obviously through kind of issues that I've got from a health point of view. So if I was to arrive on at day one camp now, I'm sure it's a different experience because you're an evolving organisation. What would my world leading experience look like? Where's the added value from my investment?
Okay, so ultimately, at first glance, you're in a field with marquees. So those things might look very similar to another event. Where's your added value? So first of all, we're in the business of delivering experiences, not races. So we call it the Dragon's Back race, but it really should be called the Dragon's Back experience. There is a big difference between race, experience, and I think we all know there are brilliant £10 Vale races you can go and do this weekend, and that's wonderful. But they're a race, and you have a great time, but you're not going to reflect back in 10 years' time and go, that was a defining moment of my career as a runner, which is where we are operating. To bring all of that together, that's part of where the added value and the cost comes. If we kind of walk you through the process, food is the most important thing at these events. We've got an entire commercial kitchen. So if you walked into like a school kitchen feeding 500 people a day, 500 pupils a day, that infrastructure is what we have. We have 2 shifts of professional staff working from 2 a.m. to about midnight every day on an event, preparing and serving food. We need to feed all the participants, we need to feed all of the crew. So there is a huge amount going on. That, I would describe that as added value. Stuff that I guess you don't see as a participant is that the law and regulation around how you deliver an event doesn't care whether you're professional or volunteer. The law is blind to that. So when I walk around an event, and I go to lots of events, sometimes race organisers say to me, "Oh, Shane, what do you think about this?" And I think very carefully, it's like, you actually don't want to know what I think about this, because the best possible defence you've got for what you're doing here is not knowing better practice. And obviously that's a little silly kind of aside. And for some race organisers, I'll have really good in-depth conversations about what they're doing. But if you think about electrical installations or temporary demountable structures managed by construction and design management regulations, that's a gantry, that's a gazebo, that's a portable. They are covered by law in how they are erected and managed, and you legally need a wind management plan for these structures. How many event organisers have got those?
Probably
we have. And it's all of these details that build and build and build to create robust, safe, well-managed events. And excuse me, that is, I guess, what you get and what you should expect from a professional event organiser. We have to operate at this standard, and that is where a lot of our additional costs come from. Going back to the real core of your question though, is where's your added value as a participant? It's the, I guess, part of the how we present the race. So if you think about the Dragon's Back, that is a famous race. People know about it. There is a kudos for being a participant in that. That fame from that race comes from delivering successful event, safe event, well-run event, one after another, after another, after another. You build that reputation. It's the way the media wraps around the event is our communications. It's the media team, it's the live social media feed, it's the BBC documentary, it's live ITV news at the finish line. It's all of these things that you don't get at a fell race. It is the fact you are finishing in Cardiff Castle. People would fall over if I talked about the costs to hire Cardiff Castle. These are really big investments. Although we're still in a field, we ain't operating in a field, not really.
Okay. So you're not, it doesn't sound like when people are kind of looking at a cost of another multi-day event, I'm not going to pick a name of one because I don't think that's fair, and then they're looking at an Ourea event, they're not comparing apples with apples, are they really? Because what you've got is an event that is, it's on one hand certainly multi-day, but doesn't have the infrastructure, doesn't have the support, doesn't have the same level of experiential investment that Ourea Events has, compared to a very holistic view of the whole race experience from start to finish.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and compare or criticise other events. What I would always say is anyone can learn. We're always learning. We organise every year the Adventure Sport Event Conference. That is done at not-for-profit, and it's about sharing good practice and learning. Any event organiser can come to that. It's a fantastic open forum of sharing ideas and the latest legislation or good practice guidelines, and I am very keen to share what we are learning and I guess formalising into processes. And I talk to many event organisers every year about a particular problem or challenge they might have. I'm happy to kind of brainstorm solutions, and it's good. I learn something, they get an event sorted. We've done that a few times when it was literally mission critical for somebody. I've lost my thread, but
I guess we're talking about the added value.
Yeah, so the added value.
But it's sorry, Shane, to cut across you there, but it sounds to me also like you're still very focused on the community, because Ultra Magazine is all about the ultra community. The outdoor what was
the conference?
The conference,
Adventure Sports
Events Conference, which I have attended actually, which was a really good forum. Do you see that as another way of giving back to the community and supporting the community to grow and learn from each other?
Totally. I think that there's a wonderful ecosystem of events, and I think going back to the £10 fell race or the £5 local orienteering event, I absolutely want to share what we learn so that trickles down to other event organisers. And so much of what we develop as good practice is actually zero cost to share out and for other people to implement. Sometimes it is expensive. Having your own dedicated rescue team, expensive.
I should imagine.
But putting in place good processes and systems for making sure everyone who starts finishes your race. That's more about personal commitment to making simple things work well.
So obviously the community is very passionate about its racing, and there's opinions. Everybody has an opinion. Some of the discussions that I picked up when you at the latest incarnation of the Dragon's Back was around the different levels of finishing recognition. So there's obviously back in the olden days, you either won the thing or you got a little tiny dragon for getting to the end, completing each day. And now you've introduced different levels of kind of completion.
The hatchling.
So
first of all, I would say anybody who would criticise the idea of celebrating what the hatchlings achieve needs their head examining. They are running on average about 250 kilometres in a week. Excuse me, I was going to say something. That is a massively hard challenge. Any other event, you'd be celebrating what they were achieving, no questions. It's just we're doing the Dragon's Back and somebody else is doing 380 kilometres. So I think a bit of perspective, celebrate the fact that the hatchlings are doing something extraordinary in their own right. And also, historically, we always offered what we just used to call a short course. But you basically only discovered this once you got to the event. And you got that heart-wrenching moment of, I've picked up an injury, I've been ill all night, it's just too hard. I haven't done enough training. And lots of people, when they failed to finish the full course, left the event. and it's sad. It puts they are sad.
Yeah.
We are sad. As a business, we want happy customers. You know, and they're leaving the event, and we would get to the end of Dragon's Back or Cape Wrath with 50% of the people who started have left. They've just gone. What happened this year at Cape Wrath and Dragon's Back, something like 85% of all the people stayed with the event. 80% completed it. Actually, 79% on both races.
Wow!
Either the full course or the hatchling or the explorer.
Right.
They're all happy. We are now celebrating what deserves celebrating and recognition. We went from overnight camps, like, you know, day 2 of Dragon's Back, when you suddenly lose 20% of your field. That overnight camp is a little bit sad in the past.
Yeah.
Now, everyone's happy. We're on a running holiday. Great, I get a lie in and I do half a day tomorrow if that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and like you say, still completing a significant distance. In the grand scheme of things. Yeah, and I think probably that message needs to be re-emphasised in terms of what it means to complete even half of one of the events, because they are big undertakings.
Yeah, I think that will filter through, and I totally understand if you've been involved in Dragon's Back from day one and you're focused on completing that full course. Maybe it doesn't sit so well with you, the idea that we're also celebrating the hatchling. But I think it's the right thing. I think it's the right thing for the business, but I also think it's the right thing for the participants who are there, and they've made that investment in training and commitment and missed family time and all the rest of it, and then shit happens. They get a little sprain here, or they feel ill, or it's hotter than they expected. Whatever it is, it's like, hey, stay with us, enjoy this amazing journey through Wales.
Yeah, get a return on your investment.
Totally, totally.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think there is a hardcore, isn't there, within our community that kind of goes for this kind of do or die,
all or nothing.
Yeah, all or nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably guilty of that to a certain extent. But there is also a need, in my view, to encourage more people into the sport.
Yeah.
And as an entry into the sport with the full race experience, but not having to complete a full race distance, my personal view is that perhaps the hatchling is probably a very good gateway into ultra running.
It is maybe not a gateway to ultra running, but it's certainly a gateway to multi-day racing. It's an absolute stepping stone to completing the full course in the future, for sure. And I do think as a race organizer you need to think about your participants and your future participants and how they come to the race. And one of the big challenges we have as an organization is we know from the research we've done that the average time between a participant hearing about Dragon's Back and entering, and then once they've entered, it's another year before they take part normally, is between 3 and 4 years.
Wow.
So how on earth do you measure anything when marketing and communications you do has a time lag of 3 to 4 years?
It's a long drag, isn't it?
It's a long drag, and that's because the challenges are really hard. They are really hard, and most people, they take time to get their head round. And I think the other key message that I would say about the finishers at Dragon's Back, Cape Wrath, Northern Traverse are 3 really hard races. The vast majority of those finishers are middle of the pack runners. They're not superstars. They're not the people winning your local races. They're not the ones speeding off at training sessions. These are the runners that apply themselves, train hard, focus on the outcome, come to the event really determined. You know about determination. It is absolutely amazing what you can achieve when you try hard.
Yeah.
And that's our majority of our participants and finishers.
So you mentioned you got this portfolio of races, and it's quite a diverse portfolio, all with the same kind of mission to be world leading. Are there any plans to put in a Grand Slam of Ourea events?
No, they are absolutely not. There's enough blooming Grand Slams and championship this and no. I think we've got a long relationship with Salomon, and Skyline Scotland is having a fallow year this year. We've got amazing plans for next year. In fact, the file that's open on this machine right now is the plan for Skyline Scotland 2025.
We won't have a sneaky peek, but okay, good.
Salomon are very invested into the Golden Trails World Series. I think it's likely that our 2025 Skyline Scotland will be back in that World Series.
Okay.
And I think that's great. I'm really happy to work with Salomon, fantastic brand, and really focused on trail running community as well. It goes without saying, make some great products. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But us as an organizer, I'm not. Sorry, I keep covering the mic. Don't say when I do that. Sorry about that.
Don't worry.
As an organizer, I'm not particularly motivated to get involved with World Championships, series, this, that or the other. I've seen so many of them come and go. Skyline Scotland's been in the Skyrunning World Series, it's been in the Spartan World Championships, Golden Trails World Series. We've organised the World Skyrunning Championships. We have been in lots of different things. And I think, in all honesty, the market needs a bit of shaking out. And there's too much of this at the moment, and the elite athletes don't know whether they're coming or going. The general consumer participant has no idea which series has the greatest value or kudos. I think it will all change, and I think the next 10 years a lot will change.
It'll be pivotal. Yeah, I agree. So if you were going to give advice to a participant entering a multi-day event, recognising that I know you shy away and you're a bit humble about it, but you are an elite athlete, you've got some elite finishes, right? What would you say to somebody who's thinking about entering, maybe not just one of your events, but a significant multi-day event?
I would say you do not know what you can achieve until you try. That would be my absolute core message. I guess followed up pretty quickly by, if you don't enter, you'll never know. Don't procrastinate. Preparation. I was chatting to someone, I can't remember who it was recently, might have been Paul Turney, Missing Link Coaching, talking about glorious consistency.
Yes.
It's no good having that 100-mile training week and then having 2 weeks to recover from it. It's like steady away, consistency over a long period of time. The physical training is part of the process. I would say give yourself every opportunity by entering a long time in advance. But also the mental side of how you prepare for these events is really important, and it's the whole gamut, isn't it? It's preparing your kit, it's getting the nutrition right, and do it in your training and prepare over a long period of time. And then I think crucially, take joy in that process. I mean, last year I went out on the Dragon's Back race route with various groups of participants over the year, and these are often like event team members who are taking part in the race. I had some really brilliant weekends running with the community and talking about nothing but running almost all weekend. And that's the joy, isn't it? The joy's in the process.
Very much so.
If you can get that right, the actual execution, the last 5% of your journey, is the easy bit. Okay, not easy, it's hard. But invest in the process is what I would say.
Train hard, race easy.
Train hard, race easy.
Okay. And if anybody sounds like foolish enough to want to set up a multi-day event themselves and organise one, what critical bit of advice would you
give me a call?
Phone Shane. Come to the event conference.
Seriously, I would say come to the event conference. I've spoken with lots of organisers over the years about stuff like that, and even I guess viewers, listeners to this would go, oh, but they're your competitors, Shane. I'm like, yeah, but I've shared how we do it. So I love having a thought experiment, and I spend a lot of time, or have done particularly with our established events, thinking through the what ifs and then solving them, like methodically writing down the challenges and solving them. I would say one of the best ways to do this is to recce your race route, but walk it. Don't run, backpack, wild camp, walk it slowly, and spend time in that environment and think to yourself, oh yeah, how would I cross this river if it was in Spate? If I wanted to give up now and walk to the road, how do I get on the bus? This overnight camp would be great, but the gate's too narrow to get my refrigerated van. Just keep going through those questions and methodically solve them, one after the other.
Okay. Right, and come to the conference.
Actually, final piece of advice, there is a brilliant industry publication called The Purple Guide. There is a chapter in there which I wrote with a few other event organisers called Adventure Sports Activities. That is basically the official guidance of what good practice looks like for a race organiser. It's all there. It's
Right.
almost freely available. I think it's a £25 a year subscription.
Nearly available,
Yeah.
nearly freely available.
Yeah.
And what next for Ourea?
So we, if I'm honest, COVID was a frigging disaster for us, as for so many other businesses, especially events. We are carrying legacy debt from COVID at a time where entries are a bit suppressed, operating costs are up. Brexit creates challenges for us all the time. The supply chain with labour and suppliers. It's a really challenging time. If you are, I guess, outdoor industry and you're looking at the outdoor industry news, it's pretty dire. Is outdoor brand after running brand issuing profit warnings and blah 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 blah. It's pretty challenging environment. So I guess for us as a business, it's hold steady. Have confidence in the events that we've got. Don't be reckless with the choices we make. I am desperate to create new events. I have this growing list of ideas.
Right.
But now is not the time to start pushing forward with lots of new ideas. I think we're very lucky that we've got some really well-regarded events that have good participation. And for now, this year certainly, it's steady away.
Consolidate. Watch this space. But there's more coming. Okay, I'm sure there is. Shane, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you as always. All the very best of luck with the future.
Thank you.
And with any personal challenges you've got coming on, because I'm sure there's a few of those in the background too. Is there?
There's one.
Could you share that with us?
No.
No? Okay.
Just a little tease.
Okay. Well, good luck with whatever you're doing. Fantastic setup here, and all the very best.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Catch you soon.